And these hauntings include all of the standard stuff, so like the walls bleed, there's an evil thing that lives in the basement, you know, that kind of thing. Hello friends, foes, and those still under review, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing my April reading roundup. So if you're new here, I like to go through all of my monthly statistics first, and then I'll go through each of the books that I read, I'll give you a really brief summary, and then tell you my thoughts. If any of these books sound good to you, I'll have them all listed on my Venable, which is linked down below. Let's get started. So I didn't read a ton in April, but I did manage to get through 3 books, which is decidedly better than I did in March. I read 3 books total, which amounted to 289 physical pages read and 26.77 hours listened. The average length of each of those books was 363 pages, and my average rating was 4.08 stars. I read 2 genres, 2 of them were horror and 1 of them was fantasy, and in 2 different formats. 2 of them were audiobooks and 1 of them I read on my Kindle. All 3 of my books came from the library this month, so go me. So the first book that I read this month was The September House by Carissa Orlando. So before this book starts, a woman named Margaret and her husband Hal buy a house, their dream Victorian home, for a suspiciously low price. Once they move in, they realize that it was sold for a suspiciously low price because it is haunted as hell. It is especially haunted during September, and these hauntings include all of the standard stuff. So like the walls bleed, there's the ghosts of dismembered and disfigured children running around the halls, there's an evil thing that lives in the basement, you know, that kind of thing. And so Margaret is stubborn as hell and has decided that this is her house and she's going to continue to live there. No ghost is going to chase her off. Hal is a little bit different. He makes it through 4 Septembers before he decides, I'm out. I can't handle this anymore. And so he decides that he is going to leave. And so he just gets up one night and leaves, and for all intents and purposes just disappears into thin air. And Margaret doesn't seem too overly fazed by this, but their daughter Catherine is worried. So she gets on a plane, she comes from the city she lives in to visit her mother and find her father. The only problem is she does not know about the hauntings at all. Unfortunately, it is just the beginning of September, so Margaret has to figure out a way to keep Catherine from finding out about the hauntings to keep her safe, all while helping her find her father, Margaret's husband. This book was delightful. I loved almost every second of it. Really, the only part of this book that I did not enjoy was Catherine. It feels almost unfair to take a 1/4 of a star off because I did not like a character that was supposed to be written as abrasively as possible. I really enjoyed Margaret and all of her rules. You know, it's really sad once you figure out why she is such a rules-oriented person. I really enjoy how she implemented that in sharing her house with the dead, essentially. I really just enjoy how she said, you know, fuck it, this is my house. I may as well learn to coexist with all these ghosts. Like I said, I didn't love Catherine, but to be fair, I probably would have acted much the same as she did if my mother was acting the same way. Probably not in as an aggressive a manner. I've heard really mixed reviews of the ending, but I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I feel like it was very fitting for all of the ghosts to get their power back in that way. Frederica the housekeeper is probably my favorite one of all of the ghosts. I would love to just have a cup of tea randomly appear in my office. Like, that would be wonderful. The next book that I read was The Deep by Nick Cutter. So at the beginning of the book, we learned that a disease called baguettes has been ravaging the planet. It's a little bit like fast-acting dementia, so like at the beginning you kind of forget super basic things like where you put your keys, or you forget appointments. It slowly and steadily gets worse to the point where you can't remember your own kids' names, and then, you know, it just keeps going and going to the point where you forget how to be human, essentially. And then it kind of culminates into your brain forgetting how to do things like breathe. And so this is obviously a very scary thing, so scientists have been trying to figure out a way to get rid of it. They've been trying to find a cure, trying to figure out how they're going to, you know, save humanity. They stumble across this substance that they're calling ambrosia, and it's got magical healing qualities. They think that it has a lot of potential in curing the gets. They decided that since the largest concentration that they know of this substance is at the bottom of the ocean in the Mariana Trench, they're gonna build a lab down there. So they're gonna build this little habitat thing at the bottom of the ocean. So if you know anything about the Mariana Trench, you know that it is the deepest part of the ocean that we know of. Super crazy high pressure, nothing survives down there, essentially. So there's a little bit of a sci-fi aspect in that they have figured out how to build a research station that can withstand these crazy high pressures. And the way they describe it is really creepy. Like, it sounds inflatable almost. I'm a little bit afraid of the ocean anyway because, like, I highly doubt we know all of what's down there. So like this one really freaked me out. But anyways, our main character Luke, his brother Clay is one of the scientists that is down at the bottom of the ocean studying this stuff. And one day the oil rig that is basically their home base, sort of, so like all of the land support for the research station at the bottom of the ocean, gets a distress call from Luke's brother Clay. And Clay is asking for Luke to come to the bottom of the ocean. So the military goes and gets Luke and they send him to the bottom of the ocean with a Navy submarine pilot named Alice, or Al for short. When they get there, things are weird, things are off, and just things start to go wrong almost immediately. I really enjoyed this book. I didn't enjoy it as much as I have some of Cutter's other work, but like all of his other books, it was really good at getting under your skin and making you kind of like subtly uncomfortable, if that makes sense. That's one thing that I really enjoy about his work, is it gets to you. I will give you the one spoiler that the dog does die, because I hate when people don't give me that spoiler. You know, normally I feel like killing off the dog is just a lazy way to invoke feelings in your reader and move the plot ahead. I do think it was probably an appropriate choice here, because the point was to make Luke feel as isolated as possible. So, you know, I understand the point of it here. I still didn't like it. So yeah, if you are a fan of horror, this is a good option for you, especially if you like the unknown of the deep sea. Just make sure that you check your trigger warnings. I will make sure to link them down below so that you have easy access to them before you decide to go and read this. The last book that I read this month was The Time of Contempt by Andrzej Sapkowski. It's the second book in the Witcher series proper. So this book was a continuation of The Blood of Elves. The book picks up with Ciri and Yennefer still at the temple, where Yennefer is teaching Ciri sorcery, but they can't stay there forever. They have to, you know, move on eventually. And so they decide that Yennefer is going to go to the Sorcerer's Conclave on Thaneth, and while they're there, she's going to enroll Ciri at Aretuza, and she's going to leave her there so she can continue her sorcery studies. Ciri's not a fan of this idea at all. She'd rather be with Geralt, continuing her Witcher training, but that's not really practical at this point in time. However, she takes it upon herself to run away. She meets up with Geralt just kind of by chance, because she hears that he's kind of on the same road that they are, and Geralt ends up going to the Sorcerer's Conclave with Yennefer. Geralt somehow manages to stumble right into the middle of a coup that several sorcerers are staging, and things just kind of go downhill from there. So I loved this book. I didn't love it as much as other books that I have read by Andrzej Sapkowski, or the, you know, previous books in the series, but it was okay. I really enjoyed it. I would recommend this to other people. I continue to adore Ciri and Geralt's dynamic. It's adorable. I love it. Geralt's such a girl dad. I really do like Yennefer too. I just wish she would get over herself in some aspects. Like, it's okay to admit you have feelings for the guy. All of us do. I will admit that it did get really difficult to keep all of the monarchs straight, because there's quite a bit of political stuff that happens, so I might have to do a reread of it and get my like red string murder board out just so that I can keep things straight for the rest of the series. I have a hold on the next book at the library, but it's gonna take a while to get to me, so I'll have time to work all of that out before I get it. Anyways, that was all of the books that I read in April. Thank you for sticking around if you're still here. Just a reminder that all of the books that I have mentioned are linked down below in my Venable profile. If you want to, you can comment down below and tell me what you've been reading. I'd be happy to hear that. Don't forget to subscribe if you like this and you want to see more from me. That about wraps it up for me. So stay safe and enjoy your book. Bye!